A lot of people want to get stronger, but they do not understand how to progressively overload correctly. This is a concept that I think is widely talked about, but not very widely discussed in detail what it actually means to progressively overload. So in today's episode, guys, I'm going to break down. There's several different ways that you can progressively overload in the context of training, so your physicality, and then I'm going to give examples of each. That way you can go forward and you can add this into your training and into your workout routines to see results. So thank you guys for watching. If you're new here, my name is Kyle Bernier. This is the Strain Forward podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, what's up? Good to see you. Glad you're here. Please be sure to like, subscribe. And if anyone wants to lose their first 10 to 15 pounds, you can jump into my 21-day shred. It's linked in the description. Or if you're looking for one-on-one coaching and you want to go straight there and work with me, you can book a free call. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about where you're at, how things are going, how we can help, and see if it makes sense to move forward and work together. There's also some other really cool stuff in the description. You can go check that out. Some other companies I work with, that'll be really helpful for you guys. So let's get into this. This idea came to make a podcast on this. I was going to make a podcast, and I might still do it, on the 3 best ways to build muscle. But that, I think it can be broken down into so many subcategories. So the first one I want to talk about is progressive overload, because in order to stimulate a response in the body, you have to constantly be challenging it. But what does that actually mean, right? So there's five ways that you can, I'm thinking in my head if you're watching on YouTube, there's 5 ways you can progressively overload. So the first way is going to be to add weight. Right. So let's say you go, I'll give some examples of these as we go through it. So let's say you go into the gym, you're doing some bench press, and the first week, for simple math, you're working at 100 pounds for 3 sets of 8. Okay, cool. Which hopefully if you're a dude, you're working out with more than that. But let's just say you're working out 100 pounds, 3 sets of 8. The next week you come in, you do 3 sets of 8 at 105. Right. It's a very simple, very linear progression. Now, the problem with that is over time, you can't, and I used to think this, right? So I'm using myself as an example. I used to think that you could just linearly progress like that eternally. And I was like, well, if I just put 5 pounds a week on, I'll be benching 400 pounds and however long that is. And it doesn't work like that. In perfect world, it would, but our bodies are interesting machines. And so that's why we have to have other methods of progressive overload. So that's the first one, right? We can add weight. The second one is we can add volume, right? So, and this is where you could do the 3 sets of 8 at 105 the next week. You could do 3 sets of 8 at 110 the next week. And then let's say the next week you try to go to 3 sets at 115 and you can't get them for whatever reason. You're just not quite there. What you can do is drop back down to the 105 or 110 mark and add volume. So you can do an extra 2 sets. You can do an extra 1 set. So that's a great, and then over time, you can add weight and sets. All right. So then you do that for a little bit. You add maybe you drop down to 105. You do 5 sets of 8, and 110. You do 5 sets of 8. Then you go back to 115 and you do 4 sets of 8. And then you go to 120. So you see what I'm saying? You can just keep on progressively overloading that and kind of going back and forward and ping ponging it. Those are the first 2 most obvious ways to progressively overload. Okay? Add weight. You add volume, add sets, or add reps. I mean, you can even go down and do 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12. You see what I'm saying? So as long as we're changing the stimulus on the body and we're moving the ball forward, we're making it harder, you're going to allow your body to progress and you're going to build more muscle within that. What's up, you guys? Quick interruption to the video. If you've ever found yourself wondering what supplements, what products to use, trying to do a ton of research on this, that, and the other, and you just find yourself overwhelmed, I want to help you cut through the BS. Go through the links in my description of this YouTube video and all my other YouTube videos. These are all the products that I use and trust and have done podcasts with the owners of these companies, because I understand how hard it is to understand what to use, when to use it, how to use it, the whole thing. So if you go to the description in this video, you're going to see a list of a bunch of different things, from red light therapy, organ meats, organ meat seasoning, water filters, air filters, whatever. If anything in there piques your interest, click on that link, go to their website, and at least check it out And if you find yourself wanting to purchase it, use my code, save yourself some money, support these great companies, support your boy so I can keep making some great content for you guys. I just wanted to interrupt the video to let you know that I've really tried to provide value to you guys, not only with the content, but also with what products, what supplements, what things to use to better yourself. So anyways, go check that out. Keep moving forward. Love you guys. Back to the video. Now here's where things get interesting. Another way to progressively overload is by manipulating the rest periods. Okay, now this is really helpful in conditioning. So let's just say you're going to the you can do it with working out, like lifting weights too. But let's say you go to the track and you're doing some running. You do 400s with 2 minutes rest in between. Okay. Well, the next week you can come back, keep the exact same pace, and instead of 2 minutes rest, you can do a minute 50. Right? Then you do a minute 40, and then a minute 30. Then you can maybe shorten it down a little less than a 10-second gap and go you're resting 135 or 125 or whatever it is. So the same thing with lifting weights. Instead of resting 2 minutes between sets, maybe you rest a minute 45. And that shortened rest period is going to up the intensity, and it's going to make your workouts much more dense, right? The more we can fit in to less time, the more dense the workout is, the more intense the workout is, and the more potent the stimulus will be on the body. Okay, so that's a third way. Another way, sorry, I feel like I'm about to sneeze. Another way, goodness gracious. Sorry about that. Another way is to add tempo. So now we're going to slow down the reps and control through the eccentric portion of the lift. So back to your bench press example, you did 3 sets of 8. Let's say you went through 6, 7, 8 weeks of just manipulating your reps, your sets, and your weight. You know, you're playing around with adding some weight, then you're adding some sets, then you're jumping back down, and you're just adding reps, and then you're adding sets to that. You know, you're playing around, right? You're trying to, move the ball forward and keep getting stronger and keep challenging the body without hurting yourself. Well, now what you can do is go through a cycle of tempo. So let's say you got to the point where you could do 120 pounds for 4 sets of 8 on bench press. That's a massive improvement from when you first started with the 3 sets of 8 of 100. Well, now what you can do is drop back down to that 105, 110 mark and start adding in tempo, where you go 2, 3, 4, 5 second eccentric down to the chest with a pause and then drive, right? And that's going to make it a lot more challenging, because whenever we control the weight and it's slow, that time under tension makes it feel much more challenging. So that's a great way to add it as well. Also, eccentric, doing negatives or slowing down the eccentric portion, the stretching of the muscle. It's great for hypertrophy, which just means muscle building, right? So you're going to break down more muscle, which means you have the chance to build more muscle if you're recovering well and consuming more protein. It's also really good for tendons, right? You strengthen the tendons through range of motion, and that's going to help reduce the risk of injury. And because it's lighter, you're already reducing the risk of injury, and it's still going to make you stronger because, again, slow tempo, you're controlling the weight, the time under tension, right? That 105, if you were doing it fast, would feel light, but slowing it down starts to make it feel really heavy. And so neurologically and on your nervous system, it's going to make you stronger. So it's really cool. So that's another way. Another way to progressively overload a movement is to manipulate the range of motion. Okay, so for instance, let's just go with squatting. Let's say squatting, you're not very comfortable going ass to grass with 315 pounds, but you can do a box squat, right? You feel comfortable going to parallel to a box, or maybe just below parallel to a box, and you can drive out of it. You feel a little bit more comfortable there. A great way to progressively overload that is to increase the range of motion. So you can either lower the box, so you're squatting a little bit deeper, or you can remove the box entirely and just kind of go as low as you can and then drive up. You can do the same thing on bench press, right? So maybe not with a barbell, but you can do it with dumbbells, right? So you can grab a dumbbell, and then now you can really focus on going through a deep range of motion, getting a big stretch with weights that challenge you. That's a great way to progressively overload as well. So as you can see, there's a ton of different variations when it comes to progressively overloading. It's just finding ways to make it more challenging. The last one is going to be manipulating the movement, or is switching the exercise modality. So I kind of already alluded to it, saying bench press, you could start doing dumbbell. That goes with any movement. So if you're squatting a lot, right, you can start doing some split squats, some Bulgarian rear foot elevated split squats. That's a great way to manipulate the exercise modality, and it becomes single leg. And so you can, number one, get more range of motion. Number two, you're removing imbalances in the body. And number three, you're creating a ton of strength and hypertrophy on that leg, and you're stretching the groin, the hamstrings, the quads. I mean, split squats are incredible movements anyways. So you can switch, you can also switch from regular bench press to dumbbell bench press, from barbell shoulder press to dumbbell shoulder press. And here's the thing too, you can do all of this in one session. That's what's really cool, right? So you can have, you're doing your barbell shoulder press, and then your accessory to that might be some dumbbell shoulder press, and then you can progressively overload those, and you're doing both at the same time. That's how I like to train. But if you don't have a lot of time, you might have to just like pick your big compound movements for a few, 6, 7, 8 weeks, progressively overload on those and that, progressively overload on those with those modalities. Then change the exercise modality to, now we're going single leg stuff, we're going dumbbells, we're going to switch up the movement patterns, whatever it is, right? So hopefully this is helpful. To give you a quick recap, right? So let's go with volume first, let's go with weight loads. You can add weight to what you're doing to make it more challenging, right? That's the first one. Number two is you add volume. That's manipulating the sets, manipulating the reps, whatever it is. You're just adding volume, total volume accumulated, okay? Making the workout more dense and more intense. Number three, you can manipulate the rest periods, so make the rest periods shorter. Number four, you can add tempo, so slowing down the movement to make it more challenging. Number five, you can add range of motion, or manipulate how you're moving your body through that specific exercise you've been doing. And then lastly, you can switch up the exercise modality, right? So it's still working your legs, but you're working your legs in a different way, okay? I hope this is helpful for you guys. If you have any questions on it, please leave a comment down below, or you can hit me up on Instagram. I'll put my Instagram down below as well. Progressively overloading, it is the key to constantly seeing progress. And it's also how, look, I'm going to be fully transparent. Like, I don't follow like a program. I program for myself, and I just program. If you looked at my stuff, it would be like, this is completely random. And that's fine. That's what I like to do, because when I go in there, I know how to challenge myself. I know if I'm doing 3 sets of 8, that needs to be a little bit, just a little bit lighter. I'm going bigger stretch. I want less rest here. If I'm going 3 sets of 3, okay, I'm going really heavy. I want to shorten the rest. I'm going to make this very powerful. And I just keep my body guessing, and I keep introducing new stimuluses to it. And I just stay very, very, very consistent. And I try to pack a lot into a little, right? So I'm not sitting on my phone in between sets. I'm hit a set. I'm probably resting really quick, jumping right into something else with a superset, and then I'm back to the first one. I mean, I'm drenched in sweat. People looking at me like I'm a crazy person, but I make the workouts very intense, and I constantly keep my body guessing, and that's how I've been able to stay healthy, and I've been able to stay really strong. So hopefully it's helpful. If you have any questions on it, hit me up. Go get after it. Love y'all. Peace.